No one would blame you if you actually skipped over some of the best releases on the Nintendo Switch in 2021, and that's because there were over 2,100 game releases available on the eShop for the entirety of this year. So that means that with a lot of great games came a lot of filler that weren't necessarily worthy of your time. In this video, I'm going to try to go over some of the best games that you might have glossed over in this calendar year. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is easily the most overlooked Nintendo titled, first-party title I should say, that was released on the Nintendo Switch this year, and for obvious reasons. It is a brand new Mario game that's simply bundled with a Wii U remaster or a Wii U port. Super Mario 3D World is a great title that's played from an isometric perspective that pretty much lets you see and play not just by yourself but with others in a different set of manners. But the real kicker for this bundle is Bowser's Fury, which is pretty much Super Mario Odyssey Plus. It is a brand new experience that lets you tackle the open worldness of it in any way you want for the most part, and it lets you experience new and clever ideas as to how future Mario games should be enjoyed. Bravely Default is also one of the most overlooked RPGs this year, only because a lot of people had issues with the character models for some weird reason, ignoring the fact that the Bravely Default series has been one of the best standout exclusive franchises on any Nintendo console. Choosing to start with a brand new story where you don't have any connections to Bravely Default or Bravely Second, it really tries to introduce a couple of brand new ideas to the series that simply weren't available back on the 3DS. If you know anything about me and this channel, you know that Monster Hunter Rise is easily my game of the year, and for multiple reasons. To me, this is the epitome of the Monster Hunter experience. It is fast, it is fluid, and it lets me enjoy the game in any way I want. Engagements aren't necessarily bogged down by the slow, methodical thinking process that you were forced to deal with in previous Monster Hunter titles. Instead, now you have the freedom of the wirebug to be able to engage and move around on the field as you basically make your character do crazy, astonishing moves and attacks that simply weren't available in the past. With that said, you also have a respectable number of monsters and different places to be able to visit that are set to be doubled or even tripled once Sunbreak launches next year. Atelier Ryza 2 is an interesting release for Koei Tecmo, simply because it is picking off right from Atelier Ryza, which was easily the most popular game in the series and one of the most popular releases they've had in years. But sadly, it simply didn't have the same type of commercial success as the previous game. With that said, it builds off of pretty much exactly where the story left off in the first game. It introduces new character, it takes you to new places, and gives you brand new experiences for not just Ryza but also her friends who are also growing as a group. It also leaves the series in a really great place, leading off to the third title that presumably is set to release, or at the very least set to be announced next year. Metroid Dread is not just a jolt to the system to Metroid fans, but it reinvigorates the series in a brand new way with interesting brand new ideas that simply weren't done in the past. It presents itself as a typical traditional Metroid experience where you're just going to simply be making your way from point A to point B. But what you do in between point A to point B actually changes drastically based on how you wish to engage with the monsters, the way you wish to progress, and simply just the way the story is developed. As you discover more and more of this planet, if you haven't been keeping up with the story, you're going to have a little bit of a trouble to be able to understand. Wingspan is one of those indie games that you go into it expecting one thing, and then when you actually begin to play it, you begin to experience something that's completely different, and you begin to love it just immediately. While it may look like another traditional trading card game, what you actually are doing is hatching birds out of eggs, feeding them, making sure they're safe and secured, all while you collect points and you raise your score as you competitively battle against other people or even the CPU. It's such a completely different idea for what you typically see in trading card games, where you are usually playing by yourself with these kind of experiences, and instead puts you in a versus environment where you're just simply dealing with eggs and different ideas, while you're still able to learn things that you didn't necessarily thought were all that important, but end up being super critical. Danganronpa Decadence is an epitome of like bang for your buck. You pretty much have 4 game experiences, the first 3 mainline Danganronpa games, and Summer Camp, which is kind of like a trolley, kind of like meme-worthy RPG that pretty much has some kind of weird and disturbing gacha mechanics that it could certainly do without. But with that said, there's so much character interactions and so much character experiences that you're just simply not going to be able to get in the first 3 games that kind of make it pretty much a worthy experience to be able to test out and see for yourself, especially if you're a fan of the series or if you simply haven't played any of them. This is just all the games that you need to play and then something extra once you're done with them. When Pokemon Unite was originally revealed, it was one of those games that I always said from the bottom of my heart that I just wish people would fall in love with. And now after seeing that it's been downloaded like 15 million times, not just on the Nintendo Switch, but on mobile devices as well, I'm so glad that it did. Now, it did have a rocky launch because of the monetization issues. Some of that was fixed, some of it hasn't been. I think the developers have been trying to do a better job getting more content out there, more Pokemons, more balancing and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, this is a MOBA, which is like one of those things that Western gamers aren't necessarily big fans of, but it's a MOBA with Pokemon. So if any type of game is going to get you interested in MOBA, Pokemon is the franchise that's definitely going to be able to pull it off. And there you have it. These are just 8 games that I think are worthy a second look on your Nintendo Switch device. If you haven't necessarily checked them out already, you definitely should, because 2021 has been a year full of games, a lot of which have been overlooked, and hopefully some of these games will inspire you to check them out. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.